3, 2, 1, action.
1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million.
8 million, 9 million, 10 million. Manifest ही कर रहे हैं.
But instead of buying a lottery ticket every month, he kept on investing. And over 40-50 years, he became like America's top 1%. We did a research and we found out that over 20 years, if you missed just 10 top days of the markets, your returns would be half. 60-70% times it will work, 30-40% time it will not work. When it is not working, cut your finger, don't let your hand get cut. हम इसको कहते हैं बाजार से बहस मत करो. बाजार से बहस मत करो.
Very good.
If you know trading, then you have more leveraged opportunities sitting here.
If you had to pick one sector for the next 5 years, which you think is going to do really well, which sector would you pick?
You can double your money by trading.
You can double your money by trading. Hello and welcome to Sanjay Conversations, the podcast where we decode money, market and mindsets. My name is Yogesh and I have a very esteemed guest with me today who's going to discuss about investment opportunities in financial markets. We are going to discuss some really staggering numbers and talking about the myths and the bubbles of the trading and investing. So stay tuned till the end of the podcast to find out something really insightful and some really great information. We have someone who truly needs no introduction. We have Mr. Sanjay Katuria. He's a CFA, the founder of Profits First, a financial educator with over 1 million followers across platforms, and a voice that makes money make sense. Today, we are discussing the realities of the stock markets, and we are going to focus a bit more on Indian stock markets as well, the psychology of the investors, and how to separate noise from strategy. Sanjay ji, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yogesh. Thank you. And thank you,
to the show.
Century Financials, for this opportunity.
And Sanjay ji, I want to know, we started with your introduction. You're the founder of Profit First and you're a financial educator. You have so many followers. Tell us a bit about what is Profits First?
So Profits First, as the name suggests, it's around helping people on investments. So we have this equation which everybody used to say that income minus expense is equal to savings. But then somebody came and said, no, income minus savings should be your expense. So that concept itself, we have turned it into a business, which is Profits First. So Profits First approaches that take your savings out first,
yes,
and then whatever is left you consume. So when I coach businesses, so we are into small and medium enterprises coaching also. So we help businesses focus on profitability. And that's why this name, when we thought of keeping a name to this business, we kept it
Very
Profits
nice.
First.
And trust me, if I work with a company called Profits First, I want to work with them. It asks for profit, and this is something which you want to look into.
Yes.
You're also a financial educator. You have so many courses on your platforms, and we have seen so many people subscribing it. How did you get this idea of putting out so many courses out there? Especially education in India is something which is really important. Financial literacy and financial education is something which we have seen increasing throughout last few years. And so how did you really get this idea to put it out there for the people?
I did my engineering, then I did my MBA in finance. I completed my CFA.
Very nice.
And when I was working, I realized that even people who are at a very senior level, who are making tons of money in terms of salary,
Yes.
they still don't know how to handle money.
Correct.
And just because you are good at one thing may not be necessary that you're good at managing finances.
With us also, by the way.
Everyone.
We're into trading, but when it comes to our investments, we always go clueless. Maybe it's occupational hazard.
Yes, it's occupational hazard. वो कहते हैं ना डॉक्टर खुद के बेटे का ट्रीटमेंट नहीं करता, so something like that.
Yeah.
So when I saw this problem statement, I said कि यार ये तो बहुत ही normal चीज है. इसमें ऐसा तो कुछ है नहीं कि लोगों को नहीं आना चाहिए. But then I realized that people don't understand numbers. When I dive deep into that, I realized that more than 3 out of 4 people don't have financial literacy in India.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like they say, you look left and you look right.
Ray,
Yeah,
so it comes to India, we are so money-minded. We always think about savings and...
No, okay, let me, kind of decode this for you. In India, we don't understand money. We live in scarcity. We are always like, अरे बिल भरने को पैसा नहीं है, अगली सैलरी आएगी तो कर दूंगा, उधार ले लेता हूँ. That is the mindset we have developed in India. We are not looking at money as a tool to financial freedom. And our education system has 2 problems. One doesn't have education, the other doesn't have system. So from an education system perspective, we don't have a system which teaches us finance,
so
money.
You brought that solution into it.
And I think, nothing against financial services firms, but I think they have also made things pretty complicated. for people to understand. So when I saw this challenge, I saw यार ये तो बहुत ज़्यादा लोग हैं जिनको finance नहीं समझ आता. So let's try this, you know. Let's try to make them understand. And I had lived a journey of long-term investment. I'd seen the benefits of it. I took financial freedom. I got my financial freedom and retired very early at the age of 39.
Yes.
So when I decided to do all this, and I came up and said that this is how I did it, and it is easy for you. So it's like if you can do, I can too.
Yes.
So वो वाला thought process हमने डालने की कोशिश की.
Basically simplified finance for a lot of people, and
yes.
I think that's a really great job. So Sanjay, if we see Indian investors, they've evolved a lot now. I think with the new generation coming in, I think during the pandemic, a lot of people realized that it's not enough to have just one skill.
Yep.
When the chefs were at home making their dalgona coffees and making reels and TikToks and whatnot, I think everybody realized that one skill is not enough.
Not going to be enough.
And I think that is when people started diving more into financial markets, understanding risk. There was so much web series, so many movies built after that.
True.
Now, do you think the Indian investors have evolved a lot? But there's this new, young, fresh age of investors coming in. I think now every kid above 13 or 14 knows about trading. How do you see, basically, what defines this new age Indian investor?
I think COVID was a very big turning point. And you rightly said that people were at home and they were not aware what to do, what not to do. Let me give you this in numeric context. That in India, the demat accounts, where you hold your shares, before pandemic, they were 3 crore in number.
Okay.
And stock markets are existent since more than 100 years.
Correct.
So 100 years, you reach 3 crores. From 2019 to 2025, we are at 17 crore.
17 crore.
17 crore demat accounts.
Wow.
So that means we have added another 14 crore demat accounts in last 5 to 6 years. Now, if you look at this number, so 100 years, 3 crores, and last 5 years, 6 years, that's kind of 6 times increase. So हमने तो एक तरीके से 600 साल का काम कर लिया, right, in last 5 years. But that necessarily has not transpired into right investor behavior. Now let me give you a data point of that also.
Yes.
July of 2024 was a time when stock market in India was booming. ठीक है, वो हर रोज खोलते थे तो ग्रीनी कैंडल दिखती थी.
Yes.
तो आज कितना ऊपर होगा, मतलब बेट यही होती थी कि आज 0.5% ऊपर देगा, 1% ऊपर होगा, तो कौन सा शेयर चलेगा, कौन सा नहीं चलेगा. All that hype was there.
Yes.
And we saw significant increase in SIP accounts.
Correct.
So there is a ratio called the SIP closure ratio. How many new accounts have opened and how many old accounts have shut down, right? So July, the new accounts opened 2 times more than the accounts which shut down.
Which is very good.
But now if you look at data now after September, because September was the peak and then it started falling down and it came down. Thoda 5 mahina consistent correction hua.
Yes.
There was no green for 5 months.
Yes.
So this ratio today is 125% in favor of SIP closure ratios. So if one person is opening an SIP account, 1.25 people are closing an SIP account.
But Sanjay, is it not a good thing when markets are coming down, people would continue with their SIPs rather than closing it down?
Precisely. And that's what people have not learned. So they understood that there is some machine, जैसे हम कहते हैं ना, आलू डालो सोना निकालो. तो कोई एक मशीन आ गई है जिसमें आलू डालोगे तो सोना निकल जाएगा. But they didn't understand that actually investments is a very, very long-term game.
Correct.
The kind of money you make is only by spending more time in the markets.
Yeah.
Today, the sad part is that in Indian markets, आपका average SIP is for 1.5 years.
Oh,
that's it. And you know that SIP benefits are after 10 years, 15 years of compounding.
Compounded, yes.
Second, if you look at another data, AMFI says that if 100 people start SIP, only 11 are continuing after 5 years. So 89% people are going to fall down in the first 5 years of SIP. So looking at this data, yes, a lot of adaptation has happened.
Yeah.
But right psychology, right learning about investments has still not percolated down, because जैसे market नीचे हो रही है, लोग बाहर निकल जाते हैं. They're just getting panicked. They're getting anxiety attacks. And people who have good salaries, who have their emergency fund set up, they will call me and say, Sanjay, 3% market down, क्या करना? क्या करना? बैठे रहो और खरीदो.
Exactly. But is it possible that the reduction in SIPs which is happening, maybe those investors, they're not doing SIPs, maybe they're more inclined towards trading or cryptocurrencies, or do you think this new young era of new investors, they're more focused on short-term trading and trying to make quick money rather than doing SIPs?
See, yes and no. I'll tell you why. Because even the data on demat accounts is showing that the increase of demat accounts, the rate of increase has slowed down considerably.
Okay.
तो पहले जहां हम महीने में 70 लाख 60 लाख डीमैट अकाउंट्स खोलते थे, that has come down to 10 to 15 lakhs every month. Now, what has increased is something which is very alarming. So these, betting apps and fantasy gaming apps, so just to tell you, one of the biggest fantasy gaming app has 24 crore registered users.
Wow.
It's a 15-year-old app. Stock markets are 100 plus years and have reached 17 crores now. So you can imagine the kind of mindset they're happening, because वहाँ पे 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 50 rupees, smaller investments.
But quick money.
Then you can make 50,000, 100,000, immediately.
Speculative.
And it's speculative, and it gets you engaging because of some game.
Yes.
So पहले सिर्फ cricket होता था, अब कबड्डी भी है, football भी है, boxing भी है. So that is very, very scary. And that's where people don't realize that. I read this book, and highly recommended book also. It's called Psychology of Money,
yes,
which talks about a janitor.
Yes.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan, शायद उनका नाम था. And this guy, janitor, right? So what do you expect? Like the lowest possible job and not having much savings.
Yes.
But instead of buying a lottery ticket every month, he kept on investing.
Yes.
And over 40, 50 years, he became like America's top 1%.
Yeah.
So this is the power of long-term investing. There was a research done which said that the best returns in US have been generated by nurses, because they buy and forget.
Correct.
They don't trade every day.
Yeah.
We did a research and we found out that over 20 years, if you missed just 10 top days of the markets, your returns would be halved. Only 10 days out of 20 years.
Yes.
So, people don't realize the power of staying put in that market.
I think even in the global markets in S&P, they say that if you have missed out 30 best trading days of S&P since I think 1990 till now, your profits would come down by 83%.
Just imagine.
So I think that this is something which is really important. I mean, people really need to understand this, that the power of long-term investment is much more than just doing speculation.
Absolutely.
But so, which brings me to the next question. People do trade. There are successful traders.
Absolutely.
At this point of time, would you say that a trader can just do trading and not do anything else and still earn a good monthly income? Do you think people can quit their jobs and do trading for the whole month and they would make money with that?
See, I am of the belief that this is possible.
This is possible.
Absolutely possible. But do remember that whichever skill you pick up, it takes time.
Correct.
If you want to become a doctor, it takes 5 years.
Correct.
And after that also, it takes a lot of time to become a surgeon.
Correct.
Right? You become an engineer, it takes 4 years.
Yeah.
You do your master's and your bachelor's takes 4 to 5 years.
Correct.
The only issue is that people come to the markets and they believe that within the next 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, I will become an expert in the market.
Correct.
Right? Paper trading is far different than real world trading. Very different. Now, the things which you have to learn in trading is going to be clinical, in the sense, once you sit down, you make mistakes, that's when you'll learn. And for that, you have to give time. I have so many friends who are very successful traders.
Yes.
But if you ask them their first 3 years of life, 5 years of life, they were not positive. Now, keeping that kind of patience, learning again and again and again and again, and then assuming that, okay, after 4-5 years, I'll become a profitable trader is possible. Second, हमारे यहाँ ना एक टर्म हिंदी में होता है, in India we use a term called दिहाड़ी मजदूर. So दिहाड़ी मजदूर is somebody who wakes up and thinks that I will earn 500 rupees today.
Correct.
Most of the traders in India, especially, I don't know, globally you would be able to tell better, but most of the traders in India have become दिहाड़ी मजदूर. So they are expecting that सुबह उठूंगा, कोई बटन दबाऊंगा और 500,000 रुपए बना लूंगा. If you think that ways, you will never make money in trading. Trading is very strategic. You take positions. You have to understand what suits you.
Yeah.
You have to understand that strategy. You don't have to do multiple strategies.
Yes.
You have to do a single strategy. Learn it so well that you get, we have a muscle memory on that.
Yeah.
And then slowly build on it and start increasing your capital.
Do you trade for yourself?
Yeah, a lot.
Make money?
Yes, positive. But it took me 2 years. First 2 years I was loss making.
Okay.
And today I don't do anything except that one strategy.
Wow.
It's very simple for me. It's muscle memory for me. I know when to cut my losses. I know when to take my profits. And it's very passive in nature because I have long positions.
That you have to read so many charts, and do people really need to be CFAs to get into trading, learn indicators, technicals or charts or anything like that?
See, if a screen has more than 2 indicators, they are trying to impress you. They're not trading.
Really?
Yes. You don't need more than 2 indicators. Okay. Right, to be a successful trader. Yeah. So if you're trying to say कि अच्छा EMA ये बता रहा है, SMA ये बता रहा है, RSI ये बता रहा है, Bollinger Band ये बता रहा है, pivot points ये बता रहा है, Fibonacci ये बता रहा है, you're not going to make a trade.
This is such a busted myth. I think a lot of people are so worried about looking into charts and techniques. उनको लगता है कि अगर हमको charts नहीं मालूम है तो we cannot be traders.
No, not at all. Not at all. You just need to learn 1 or 2 indicators, not one. See, psychologically what happens is people are trying to avoid losses.
Yes.
The moment you try to avoid losses is when you will definitely have a loss.
I don't have to have fear.
Yeah, you should know this is my strategy.
Yeah.
And every strategy has a strike rate.
Yes.
60-70% times it will work, 30-40% time it will not work. When it is not working, cut your finger, don't let your hand get cut.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
And get out of the position, learn and re-implement.
You need to get out of it.
But
right?
don't put like 5 indicators, 7 indicators on the screen, make it very cluttered. It's good for an Instagram reel
Yes.
or a YouTube video, but it's not good for trading.
Wow, this is such an insightful information. जो आप बोल रहे हो बहुत, I think I've read at a lot of places, and I think people talk about it, but I think it's very difficult to implement it, right?
Yep.
It's just one of those things कि सुबह जल्दी उठो और सब ठीक हो जाएगा.
सब ठीक हो जाएगा, उठा नहीं जा रहा.
Get up in the morning, it's very difficult. But that's really good. Let's come back to Indian equities. I think this is something which is also your expertise, and you have been into this market for so long. And what is the current status of Indian equities? I think 2025 started off a bit shaky.
Yep.
I think we have had a major issue going on right now. Let's 2-3 days before we saw
solved it
lot of uncertainties.
True.
With Donald Trump coming up with trade tariffs, early first week in April, we saw a lot of markets corrections. As of now, I think Indian investors have become optimistic, very resilient. Do you think this optimism is very fundamental, or do you think it's just like a sentiment, a wave, very temporary? This is again going to get into panic. What do you think is the recent optimism for? Because recently we saw a major global event happening between the two nations. We saw trade tariffs coming in. Obviously, recently the tariffs have been paused. But abhi jo Indian markets are going positive, investors are very resilient, they're very strong. Do you think there is a fundamental reason behind this?
See, मेरा एक मानना है कि the markets are emotional in short term and fundamental in long term.
Right.
Okay, they are always very emotional in short term.
Yes.
Now tell me, let's say 7th April was the day of the big fall in India. Markets fell down by somewhere around 2,500 points.
Yes.
So what was the difference of, let's take an example, Reliance. What was the difference of from 6th April to 7th April in the company? Fundamentally in the company, was there any difference?
Nothing changed. Yeah,
Nothing changed. वो कैसे सुबह गए ऑफिस, काम किया, शाम को आ गए, अगले दिन भी गए ऑफिस, शाम को आ गए. What changed? So why suddenly something which you were ready to buy at, let's say 1,500 rupees a day before,
Correct.
now you're shaky to buy at 1,400 rupees? That is because you didn't know why you are buying something and for what purpose you are buying. The issue is everybody wants to look at short-term indicators. Correct. And Warren Buffett says that if you look at anything and react emotionally, you will never make money.
Correct.
Right? So you have to keep the emotions out of the door. You have to understand what asset class you are investing in. You have to understand inherent risks and returns of that. You have to understand what is the capital allocation to that.
Right.
And then you have to stick to your plan. Because things will move up and down. ये काम है, अभी Donald Trump आ गए, कभी कोई आ जाएगा, कभी war हो गई, कभी war रुक गई. Suddenly war रुक गई. The next day you see markets have jumped up by 3,000 points.
Yeah.
So एक दिन पहले क्या हुआ था, 2 दिन पहले क्या हो रहा है? It's not going to fundamentally change a lot of things.
Yeah.
But these companies have been year on year giving results, positive results, and they will keep on giving.
So you're saying the long-term outlook, even of course for Indian markets, the long-term outlook is more positive.
Absolutely. You have 140 crore people.
Yeah.
They need to bank, they need to eat, they need to sleep, they need to work, they need to create employment, they need to export, they need to consume.
Correct.
These people every day when they wake up, they will have to do something.
Correct.
And all these organizations will benefit from them because they'll find out some solution to their problem and they will execute at speed and scale.
And so adding on to the optimism right now, I think India just had a very successful trade deal with UK also.
Yep.
They're trying to get a good deal with the US tariffs as well. I think that has also come across as a good motivator for the stock markets.
Yes.
Now, this India-UK trade deal, which sectors do you think are going to get benefited? I think a lot of investors would want to know that after such a major event, is if there is a sector or a particular stock in a sector which people should be looking into it right now.
I think textiles could be one.
Okay.
But again, my suggestion, and I always keep this as my placeholder, that don't deal in stocks.
Don't deal in stocks?
Yeah, directly.
Okay.
See, if you look at US as an economy, majorly money is invested by retail investors either through MFs or ETFs. Okay. Direct investment is pretty less. And if they would invest in like blue chip companies, very large companies.
Because आप एक stock में invest करो, एक company में invest करो, rather than why not?
Than a bunch. Correct. So if you look at ETF, you would have 40, 50. You could have thematic ETFs. You could say, okay, fine, I'm bullish on semiconductor for a very long term. So let me pick up some semiconductor stocks, some AI stocks, some this, that. So it's the job of that ETF manager to find out those companies and kind of, rebalance that thing. And worst come worst, buy an index. Hypothetically, because the kind of returns it gives and at the cost which it gives, it's very difficult to beat an index over like 20, 30, 40 years horizon. So everybody's seeking alpha. I don't think so. You should seek alpha. You should try to seek lowest possible costs and long-term returns.
Which I think a lot of investors who are very conservative, or maybe who do not have more time to invest, they are busy with their daily work. I think going with mutual funds or ETFs is one of the best ways to do it. So, a new young investor, do you feel, if he wants to start with the ETF investment, like what's the very layman basic ETF or a mutual fund you would suggest?
See, especially in India, I'll speak about India. India में ना top 500 companies जो हैं, उसमें से the first 100 companies are large cap, the next 150 are mid cap, and the next 250 are small cap.
Yes.
I believe you should remain in this universe of those 500 companies. That's more than enough. The issue is when people start finding penny stocks. तो मैं इनको कहता हूँ आप कचरा बिन रहे हो.
Again, chakri stocks.
हाँ,
quick rich.
Quick rich वो चलेगी पर फुस भी हो सकती है. So don't get into those things.
Correct.
The sad part is people have become passive in their active income and active in their passive income.
Okay.
So let's say you are in a job.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have some meetings. Like we are sitting right now. It's the middle of afternoon. Right. And there's a trade open in your account.
Yeah.
What would be your focus with me in an interview? Obviously, no. There will be very less focus. Yeah. अरे यार वो stop loss तो नहीं hit हो गया. क्या हो गया? Target hit हुआ क्या? मैं जरा एक बार देख लूँ क्या? So this will hamper your growth in your present job.
Correct.
Your mood will be off. After, let's say, you make a loss, you'll not be interested in a meeting. You'll be sad.
It happens.
It happens because human, na? Emotions, आपका पैसा आ जा रहा है. So my request to everyone is very simple: that be active in your active income. Focus on developing your active income, increase your active income, increase your skills, meet more people, network, and that's how you grow your income.
Yes.
And let this money work for you in long term. So that after, let's say, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you have some corpus and say, okay, ठीक है यार, मैंने active income बढ़ा लिया, I've got to a skill level which, I can monetize normally. And then I have this kind of backup, let's say I have 1 crore, 2 crore, 3 crore in my mutual fund ETF accounts, which will support me in bad times.
Yes.
Now I don't need to work for anyone, which is what I did.
Yes.
So my request to everyone is that if you want to do something, let's say you want to become a trader, then take it as a profession. Take it as a profession. You can't sit in a room full of 4 screens, okay, and put a camera there and say, okay, fine, I will trade. This is not how you learn trading. You have to be in that organization. You have to be with those people who are trading. It's like, आप डॉक्टर है, घर पे डॉक्टर बन के आप क्या कर लोगे? You have to be in the hospital. You have to be in the theater, operation theater. You have to meet people. You have to meet, understand more products. So if you want to make trading your active income, then deal with it like an active income.
I think a lot of people just love the idea, which is shown in the movies with screens around and candlesticks around, and they want to live that life. And
then there's some nice music and some, hue effects and RGB lights, and it suddenly looks very sexy to trade on 4 screens. But those guys, nobody's making money. Don't worry.
Half of them end up in a jail.
I met an influencer, young guy, and I was very new to this thing at that time, and he told me, how people show their P&Ls. So they will show their gross profit, not the profit after transaction cost. एक और चीज़ होती है. For example, somebody trades in the morning and उसका लक लग गया, उसको profit हो गया. यार 10,000 का profit हो गया. चल क्या एक position और लेता हूँ. ज़्यादा क्या होगा? 5,000 हार जाऊँगा. अब वो suddenly position लेता हूँ, 20,000 माइनस हो जाती है. Now यार अब तो 10,000 लॉस हो गया, अब इसको रिकवर करना है.
Revenge.
तो हाँ, फिर revenge trading चालू हो जाती है. और क्या कर रहे हो यार आप? What is that? This is such an optimal time of your life, and you're wasting in fighting with the markets. The markets, like where you are nothing.
Yes.
आपका क्या 50,000, 1 लाख, 2 लाख, 5 लाख, 10 लाख, 1 करोड़ भी वहाँ छोटा है, 100 करोड़ भी छोटा है.
Correct.
When your daily volumes are so large, you are a very small fish in the game.
You should know when to take a step back and take a breather. And
हम इसको कहते हैं बाजार से बहस मत करो.
बाजार से बहस.
बाजार से बहस मत करो.
Very good. So, I think this is very clear that long-term investments work out. Especially in Indian markets, I think 2018 when this happened, INR depreciated a lot against dollar. उस टाइम पे there were mutual funds who gave a return of around I think 10-11%. लेकिन currency depreciation इतना ज़्यादा था कि the returns were basically negative. Api, what do you think about the forecast of dollar INR? I think a lot of NRIs also want to know who are probably investing in Indian ETFs. What do you think about dollar INR? Do you think with the current tariff situations, with a lot of countries talking about
de-dollarization,
their own currency, do you think dollar is going to get weaker? Indian currency is going to get more stronger? What is the outlook?
See, people have to realize that dollar cannot be replaced very easily because US is the biggest consumer of the world.
That is true.
Right? So, just to give you a context, China का 25% exports सिर्फ US को है.
25%
Yes.
export.
25% export of China is only to US. They do somewhere around 3.5 trillion and they send 660 or 680 billion to US.
Yeah.
So, it's not that easy to replace the US dollar. And globally, theoretically, there is a equation called international Fisher relationship, which speaks about the currency depreciates, the currency which has higher interest rates depreciates more. And the depreciation is the difference between the interest rates.
Yes.
Now, over last few years, the interest rates in US have risen.
Interest rates in US have
Risen.
gone up,
Yep,
yes.
they've gone up. So what has happened is they have the gap between Indian interest rates and US interest rates have reduced.
Yes.
So now the speed at which the dollar was increasing, that may not be so. Especially if there are certain events, like so there obviously spikes can be there. But from a long-term perspective, I see the speed of this depreciation going down, but the depreciation will still stay because India is higher interest rate than US.
How many years do you think it will take for dollar actually not to be the dollar? मतलब at this point of time हम लोग को लगता है कि dollar में invest करके रख देते हैं. Like a lot of people of lately have been coming to Dubai to invest into global markets also.
Yep.
I think what we have realized that diversification is also really important.
Absolutely.
Do you think, what is the reason? Is this because of the taxes which have been put in India on the investments? Is that the reason why a lot of people are coming to Dubai to do trading and investments?
You're right. I think taxes have been a very big deterrent.
Yeah.
If you look at, so consider like 8-10 years back, dividend was tax-free. Now dividend, then what they did was they said, okay, this much dividend is tax-free, then you tax.
Yeah.
Now flat dividend is taxed at your marginal tax rate.
Yes.
Second, your long-term cap gains were 0.
Yeah.
Then they got it to 10. Now they got it to 12.5%.
Okay.
So definitely this this mindset that yes, taxes are going to hurt me is shifting the capital from India to abroad. But on that also they have put very strong conditions now. So there is a scheme called the Liberalized Remittance Scheme.
Liberalized
Remittance Scheme, LRS.
Okay.
This is an automatic investment allowed to Indians up to $250K per annum. They can send abroad.
Okay.
So now what they're saying is on that also up to first 10 lakhs it's okay, but after 10 lakhs you will pay 20% TCS.
Okay.
That's tax collected at source. So you have to put that to the government.
All right.
And with that money you can't speculate. You can only invest.
Only invest.
Yes. Okay. So kind of restrictions which are being put on capital flight. They also understand. They have more data than us.
Yeah.
Right? So उनको समझ आ जाता है अच्छा यार ये लोग ये जहाँ जा रहे हैं यहाँ पे check post लगा दो.
Yeah.
यहाँ पे toll gate लगा दो. So they also are trying to not let this go. But on the other side, if I had to defend their decision, it's very simple that the budgetary deficit is huge.
Yes.
Right? Our budgets are, let's say, if we make 35 lakh crores a year, we are spending 48 lakh crores a year.
Yes.
तो जो 13 लाख करोड़ का gap है, वो it is hurting us. It has to be covered up. So that's why they are increasing taxes.
Yes.
And then they have to become populist also. Like last time they said कि 12 लाख तक अब tax नहीं होगा.
Yeah.
So they have to take those decisions also.
Correct.
So it's very difficult for them also to juggle between. Just to tell you, like if you look at India's budget, 20% of our annual spends is only interest.
20%.
Yep. 20% of our annual spends. We spend 48 lakh crores a year.
Yeah.
Out of that, 20% goes only
Just
in
as an
paying interest of the loan which we have.
Yeah.
Not repayment.
Yeah.
It's only interest.
Wow.
So just imagine this money of 10 lakh crores could have been used, for better healthcare, better education.
It's like it will never get repaid.
Yeah.
with
And then look at it that, still you are adding to the debt.
Correct.
Keep on adding to the debt. But yes, you have those FDI capital inflows which support them.
Yes.
And, we have these things which are supporting us.
There are a
on
lot of
currencies.
foreign investors now investing. I think in between somewhere the year before or the previous, we saw a lot of foreign investors taking money out from the Indian market.
Yes.
Can we say now that a lot of foreign investors have actually started putting money in? There's a lot of FDI inflow. Particularly, I feel in large caps more than the small or the medium caps, because I think a lot of investors are flying towards more quality and safety kind of a perspective. It has been increasing.
See, last 6 months were not that great. Obviously, from September to March were not great because there was a lot of capital flight. There were two reasons. Obviously, Indian markets were overhyped. So there were these price to earning ratios which were not supporting the growth. Suddenly, the last quarter results were not great. The third quarter. So वहाँ पे FIIs ने कहा कि यार अब सही नहीं है, so let's monetize this and go somewhere else. But you have to realize that slowly this money will again come to India in two forms. One, it will come into quality stocks and the top 500 broadly. Okay, that's why I tell people stick to top 500. Don't go below them.
Good quality.
Good quality, na? मतलब अच्छा, the minimum capitalization here would be not less than 7,000-8,000 crores.
Correct.
So you have like $1 billion company. You understand, ठीक है, अच्छी company. Second is this money is going to come to new entrepreneurs. So for example, new IPO आ रहा है, ठीक है, तो जब new IPO आएगा तो यही FIIs आके पैसा डालेंगे उसमें. So this capital is now going to, so उन्होंने secondary market में डाला, पैसा बनाया, थोड़ा पैसा इधर उधर कर दिया, अब वो पैसा घूम के वापस आएगा और वो primary markets में जाएगा. So this is how new capital will start rotating and benefit the country at large. Though right now the mood of the market is not very good, so IPOs are not coming at that speed. Because 2024 में तो हालत ये थी कि हमारे को हर दूसरे दिन वीडियो बनानी पड़ती थी.
We used to see so many IPOs coming in before.
तो हमारे पे स्ट्रेस होता था कि यार अभी इस IPO का भी there was one video I made where I reviewed 8 IPOs because I couldn't make 8 videos for them. So I said कि let's do one video and have 8 subsections on this and do 8 IPO reviews.
I think this happened the same. What happened in Indian markets, even in US markets, the number of IPOs जो हम लोगों ने pandemic में देखा था 2020, 2021 में.
तब तो SPAC और ये सब भी बहुत famous हुआ था.
So many IPOs coming in, but post that I think due to higher inflation, interest rates going up, I think the number of IPOs came down, and we don't really hear these days that a new company is getting listed for an IPO.
Yes.
Like last I heard was Zomato and another of 2 or 3 more companies.
Yes.
But do you feel now when a lot of people are coming to Dubai and doing investments, Dubai has a lot of Indians here, and I think from a
more than 3.5 million.
Yeah, from real estate perspective, from investment perspective, how a person here who's living here as a NRI, if he wants to invest in Indian markets, how would that be possible? And what is the tax understanding like? As NRIs, will they be charged taxes on the dividends or on the capital gains? Is it good for short-term trading or long-term investment? What should be the ideal way?
See, I think trading would not be great because there are two issues in the Indian market. You don't get a lot of leverage.
Yes.
And the taxes are high and the transaction taxes are very high.
Even higher.
Okay. So in that case, I don't suggest people to trade there. Not be favorable. You have better, if you know trading, then you have more leveraged opportunities sitting here.
In the global markets.
In the global markets. You have currency, you have crypto, you have so many things. You have big stocks, US big stocks and all. Second, I feel that if an Indian person should invest in India, an NRI, should invest in India, if they have plans to come back there.
Okay.
A lot of people, what mistake they are making is that they don't know whether they will come there. And they feel that, okay, fine, because Dubai doesn't give citizenship, maybe 15-20 years down the line, I'll make some money and maybe shift to UK, Canada or somewhere else. And, but what they're doing, they're investing in India and trying to go to US. And that's not right. Okay, because then you have too much things to manage. You have currency, inflation, hedge to manage. You have taxes to manage. Then might as well invest in those countries.
Okay.
Third, whenever or wherever you're investing, invest through MFs and ETFs.
Through mutual funds and
Absolutely.
ETFs.
Please don't go direct.
Better,
Okay. If you want to go direct, go super blue chip. And hold long. Okay. If you want to do US, then the Magnificent 7, you want to pick up them. Okay, समझ आता है बात. But अगर वो भी नहीं करना, pick up an ETF. Pick up S&P 500, pick up NASDAQ. Whatever you feel like. But pick up an ETF, pick up a mutual fund.
Even for Indian markets, always better to go
pick up an ETF, pick up a mutual fund. Yes.
I think that is a very
and do in that market where you want to shift. Like I have a client who is from Singapore.
Okay.
And when he came to us for, he said, मेरे को mutual fund में डालना है, वो hype बन चुका है ना. तो मतलब आपको जाना कहाँ है सिंगापुर के बाद? बोलते I want to shift to India. So I want to shift to America.
Okay.
So why are you investing here? Invest there. है ना, better to invest there.
But I think people do not want to miss out on the growth story.
So in that case, don't put all your capital there.
Just a part of it.
Then you can put some capital there.
Correct.
apportion your capital that, okay, fine, I'll retire there, so I need a corpus there.
Correct.
Okay, this is for growth, I will check. Okay,
Definitely.
let's say 20% here, 80% there, something like that.
That is why you suggest that an ETF is better
Yep.
rather than having a whole setup in a different country where you're not even going to come again.
Absolutely. You're safe, secure, you're managed. Fund manager has the responsibility, they will manage.
Correct. I think that is very good. I want to keep talking to you. This is something which I don't want it to end. There is so much information and so much knowledge for all our viewers, also listeners, also. But let's do a rapid fire.
Take it.
Right? You, as of now, whatever I have asked, you have not just answers. You have answers with numbers. Something which our people would definitely love.
Thank you so much.
You have literally given percentages, and this is so much clear now because the moment you put numbers to these facts, it was really eye-opening for me when you were telling me that the SIP closeout versus new accounts, it is increasing. And I always thought that people in India, because there is so much talk about mutual funds and SIPs, I always thought that people are more inclined towards it.
Yes.
But now when you are telling me these numbers, it's really insightful. Okay, let's start with the rapid fire. I have like 5 very simple questions for you. I want to pick your brain on this. One financial book everyone should read.
Modern day Psychology of Money.
Psychology of Money. And do you remember any one quote or one thing which you really loved that in the book?
I'm happy having average returns, but for above average number of years.
Average return for above average number of years. Very nice. Okay, second question, SIPs or lump sum investment?
I would prefer SIPs because we don't know how to time the market, so better to be SIPs.
Most overrated financial advice you keep hearing?
You can double your money by trading.
You can double your money by trading. See, you're saying this, but a lot of people who, especially the youngsters, I think sometimes we go to universities and educational institutions, and मैं एक बार गया एक college में, there were a lot of students, and I asked them, how many of you invest? Nobody raised any hands. And how many of you trade? Literally everybody raised hands.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what do you trade in? And the person stood up and said, cryptocurrencies, Ripple.
Ripple, okay.
Like,
it will ripple down.
You're 18 years old, 19 years old. You have to have a foundation base. We were born and raised by our parents, told that पहले ये पैसा सेविंग्स में रखो, FDs करवाओ, फिर bonds में, fixed income में.
True. Laddering approach.
There has to be a ladder approach. But I think it's a very different generation we are looking at.
True.
जैसे उसने बोला,
They're reverse ladder.
Like ये the most risk and the riskiest thing which
asset
could
class
happen, and
yeah.
that is what very
with highest leverage.
Yeah. So I thought maybe मैं गलत हूँ, yeah, I have to reevaluate what I have learned.
But you just have to look at your date of birth.
Now we are in that slab जहाँ पे पहले होता था 18 to 25,
right.
25 to 30, 30 to 35, and then 35 to 40. So now ये एकदम bottom वाला जब tick करते
हैं 40 plus होता है वहाँ पे हमें.
Okay, so yeah, I think that's the most overrated advice I give.
Yes,
you can double your money. I think even the young generations and everybody need to hear it out.
I'll give you a story on this. I was conducting a class, and I have this statement where I say, ज़्यादा नहीं ज़्यादा देर कमाएंगे. ठीक है, so let's try to make money for a longer period of time, and automatically it'll become big, like the snowball effect.
I would remember this. I'm going to use it liberally.
Yeah, sure, please do.
ज़्यादा नहीं ज़्यादा देर कमाएंगे.
ज़्यादा नहीं ज़्यादा देर. So what happened was in this class and I always say that trading, don't expect more than 15 to 20% a year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we deal with, and we have this underlying asset class, ETFs or bonds which we have pledged. So we get another 6-7%. So try to make anywhere between 25 to 30% trading, and just don't take ज़्यादा लालच मत करो, greed मत करो. So there's one hand which got raised. There's one hand which got raised. This female says, "Sir, but ये तो बहुत ही कम return है." तो मैंने बोला, आपकी क्या expectation है? तो बोलती सर महीने का 40% तो बनना चाहिए. महीने का 40% बनना चाहिए. अच्छा, मैंने वेरी गुड, दैट्स वेरी नाइस. मैंने एक बंदा बता दो जिसके महीने के 40% बने. तो बोलती मेरे हस्बैंड के. मैंने वेरी गुड, मतलब प्लीज कॉल हिम. तो वो आए, तो मैंने आपने 40% रिटर्न्स बनाए. बोला हाँ सर, लास्ट मंथ बनाए. मतलब उससे पिछले महीने लॉस था. मतलब पिछले 5 साल में कितने पॉजिटिव ट्रेडिंग ईयर्स थे? बोलते एक भी नहीं. तो आंसर अपने आप ही मिल गया. What happens is we take these one of the month outliers and think that this will get repeated all our life. But you have to look at things in a longer horizon. 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. And there you will see these kind of traders never make money. They just don't make money.
Yeah. I think my next question was actually a myth about trading or investing you like to bust. But I think
I did that.
You already did that. So tell me, if you were to pick one cryptocurrency which you could buy now and hold on to it, which one would you pick?
See, I don't know much about cryptocurrencies. So if I had to ever invest, and I always say that, let's look at investment like a typical Indian thali.
Yeah.
You would have rice, you would have dal, you would have, chapati, salad, and some meetha.
Yeah.
You can't have an entire thali of meetha.
Correct.
That's not good for your health.
Yeah.
So meetha is your crypto.
सबसे
कम होना चाहिए और सबसे लास्ट में आना चाहिए.
Very interesting analogy.
सबसे लास्ट में आना चाहिए. And there also, like, there is an ETF called GLDC.
Okay.
So it invests in top 4 only.
Okay.
तो आप उसमें डाल दो, वो अपने आप करता रहेगा.
Do it like a ETF.
Do it
rather
like
than
an
picking one cryptocurrency.
Yes. So if you feel FOMO हो रहा है कि नहीं यार मेरे को asset class में डालना है, मेरे को गुलाब जामुन खाना ही खाना है, खा लो. Put it in ETF. Yeah, have a little bit.
Very good. So last question for the rapid fire. I think I've seen some of your videos and you've answered this question, but I want this for particularly for my viewers. If you had to pick one sector for the next 5 years, which you think is going to do really well, which sector would you pick?
अभी recent के हिसाब से मुझे लगता है drones ठीक कर लेंगे, जो अभी हुआ पिछले दिनों में. But I think security would be one, AI. And in India, I am gunning for Ayurveda.
Ayurveda?
Yeah. So one of my friend's company got listed 2 years back at a 200 crore market cap.
Okay.
It was an SME company.
Yeah.
And today it's at 6,000 crores.
6,000 crores.
So that's like 30x jump in 2 years.
In Ayurveda, in India, is there a lot of companies which are listed? Or again, would you suggest that have like a mutual fund or a ETF which is dedicated to that sector?
अभी वहाँ उतना बड़ा play आया नहीं है.
But that's why you feel that.
That's why I feel, because see, what is happening is globally Ayurveda is getting acknowledged.
Okay.
Very big thing which has happened in India is that earlier the insurances were only for allopathic treatments.
Yes.
Now you get Ayush package, which is Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Shirodhara.
Okay.
So you can buy an insurance with this package. You can go to an Ayurveda center, get yourself treated, and the insurance company will pay for it.
Oh.
Okay, so this is like the TAMs would increase.
Yeah.
Third thing which has happened was earlier, like my father used to work with ONGC. So all these government companies were empaneled with hospitals because my father's insurance is taken care by ONGC. Earlier, they never had any Ayurveda center attached to these companies. Now all these public sector companies, Indian Army, CGHS, which is central government schemes, all are attached with Ayurveda. So what has happened to my friend's company? It's not that bubble Aya and the share price increased.
Correct.
His profit when he was at a 200 crore valuation was 11 crores. In the last 2.5 years, the profit has gone to 100 crores. PAT.
Wow.
So PAT has multiplied by 10 times. 8 to 10 times. And obviously that has transpired into the share price movement also. And it is so resilient that whenever markets are crashing, they are like not going down. The moment it recovers, it's going up.
I've seen a lot of people when I ask this question, they would talk about cybersecurity, EVs, lithium, DNA sequencing, like something which is. But it's really interesting to know that Ayurveda is something which is moving that forward. And I think for a lot of investors here, they would want to seek out these companies and funds and see, over the next 5-10 years. So again, these kind of investments, because we're not really sure, I think with every new sector coming in, there is always a possibility. Like space exploration, people talk a lot about it, but then at the end of the day, how many people actually want to explore space and what is the future of that industry?
True.
So I think, again, like a dessert, thoda sa meetha, or you can put more.
No, dekhe, you need to build your convictions. Okay. If you are in the business of fund management, if you understand fund management, if you understand stocks, you can do some fundamental analysis, you can understand trends. Then be my guest, you can do some concentrated bets because you can make bigger money with concentrated bets. Correct. But at the end of the day, if you don't understand anything, stick to those ETFs and mutual funds.
Which is the best.
And in mutual funds also, I suggest people not to go for thematics.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say, see, the moment you give thematic, so there are two problems with thematic. You would pick up a thematic because it has performed well.
Yes.
So there's no guarantee it will perform well again.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Now the mutual fund manager is stuck. Let's say you do pharma and suddenly something happens to pharma.
Yes.
Now he's stuck. He can't perform because he can't move his stock to defense. He can't move his stock to consumables or a Reliance or those kind of companies.
For a long period of time till it becomes something.
So pick up companies or pick up mutual funds, ETFs based on capitalization.
Correct.
Large cap, mid cap, small cap, micro cap, or factors like momentum, quality, value. Pick up mutual funds with those kind of outlooks.
Again, very good insight. Picking on the basis of the market cap and the quality.
Yes, and market cap and factor. Factor could be momentum.
Yeah.
Like last 6 months कौन से stocks momentum
which
में
are
थे.
making momentum,
So we are
very
very clear on our goals. But if you pick up thematics, that's where we get stuck.
Very nice. That was a rapid fire.
Okay.
I think you have done really well. So much information in these questions, and I think even अगर हम लोगों ने सिर्फ ये 5 questions पूछे होते, then also we would have covered a lot. But more of your knowledge, more of your content, we are just absolutely loving having you here. And before we wrap up, what would be your message to the young traders and investors who are just like starting their financial journey?
If you want to make it your active part of life, learn, spend time, have emotional control, read great books like The Market Wizards or Trading in the Zone.
Yeah.
That's such kind of books. They are your best friends.
Yeah.
If you don't want to get into these markets, you're scared of it, don't worry. Keep on investing through ETFs and mutual funds, build long-term wealth. Both the approaches are okay.
Yeah.
Just you should know what suits you more, what is your natural nature, and stick to one of these and have a great life.
Okay, and I will take this out of you. अगर जल्दी से पैसा कमाना है 100%, अगर profit double करना है किसी में, which stock do you have in mind right now?
The stock's name is, in my case, that stock's name is Sanjay, and in his case, the stock's name is Yogesh.
Okay.
ठीक है ना? So you are your best investment. Your brain will give you the maximum gain.
You got out of that question very, very fast. So, I think that's why you're the best. So, thank you so much, Sanjay, for
Thank you,
coming to
Yogesh.
this podcast. And I think this particular session was packed with so much insights, so much value. And we urge our viewers to follow Sanjay, Finance by Sanjay. That's your Instagram handle. He has a lot of courses running already. And stay tuned for more financial wisdom. My name is Yogesh. This is Century Conversations. Until next time, stay curious and stay invested. Thank you very much.